All right, welcome to the Marriage Boss podcast, and I'm totally pumped today because I've got a new guest on, guy I just met, Michael Mindus, and this guy, listen, we're all into games in our relationships today. This guy is a game creator, and he's a publisher of award-winning hobby board games. Um, Married, 13 years, got 4 kids, running his own business for about 8 years now. He's the founder and CEO of Tasty Minstrel Games, which is a multiple award winning publisher of hobby board games. And in his capacity, he's grown this company to over $2 million in revenues with a team of 10 people without any outside investment. So, Michael, welcome to the Marriage Boss podcast.
Hey, thanks, Rick. Glad to be on.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you. And, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was obviously being married 13 years and having 4 kids, 11, 9, 6, and 4 years old. You got a lot going on. And I looked at the
Yeah.
website and I saw, like dozens, is it correct? Dozens of games up there?
Yeah, at this point, we've probably published 40 titles,
Okay.
and we are set up to, on a regular basis, do another 16 to 25, something like that, every year.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how does a guy with all of this going on, tell me the origin of this, and then we want to talk about obviously balancing out family, life, entrepreneurialism, taking big leaps, being pretty much a gunslinger out there without any capital, doing it on your own. How did you do all this, and how do you still, run a business and have kids and a wife and all that?
Sure. If we go back to the origin, it goes back to the beginning of me, basically. I've enjoyed and liked games my entire life. And that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And going into when I was about to be graduating from college, I had been married now for around a year, and my wife and I were like, "Oh, we'd like to have kids," so we tried to do that. Managed to be successful, and so when I graduated, I was going to plan on starting publishing games. But after much hemming and hawing and wanting to try this out, I realized I could be a responsible adult, get a good job that I knew I could get.
No.
Working with my father, being
Wow.
a financial advisor,
Wow.
I would be good at it. I would be successful. I would enjoy it. And I did all those things. But it wasn't games. And I just wanted to do game stuff. So I come home. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit rough day at work. I worked with a lot of older folks. So maybe someone had died, or their wife officially got dementia, or, things like that. Were not, that was happening to people I liked a lot more than someone who was 24, 25 should be dealing with, right?
Yeah.
That's for my grandmother right now. But so I would come home and I'd say, I want to do game things. And my wife would listen to me and very kindly she'd say, okay. And one time she's like, we're going to be married a long time. That's my plan. And I'm going to grow tired of hearing this. So you better just figure out something and start doing it.
Yes. Thank you,
So,
supportive wife.
yeah. And so I did that, and I started publishing board games. And it took me a while to figure out. I was like, oh, do I have a retail shop? Well, that seems like a lot of... I would have to exclusively do that if I did that. But if I publish, I could work on getting a game ready while still working as a financial advisor. So started doing that, and in March of 2009, kept doing both. And when I was working as a financial advisor, at that time, it was anywhere from 30 to 70 hours a week, kind of depending on what was going on. I had 2 small children at that time, and it got, just worked hard and smart and tried to give people what they wanted. But by people, I mean the customers that we were serving. And we ended up being successful enough for me to just do that. And then in January of 2014, I hired the first person that helped me on the business side outside of actually doing like game development and discovery. I have a friend who I've been working with since the beginning on that.
Wow. That's incredible. What a great story. This is like, the American dream and the entrepreneurial dream at the same time. And it's
Yeah. And I am uniquely set up to do this. I have my dad had been teaching me about financial things since I was a kid.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do was to come home and watch the nightly business report with him every night.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and every waking moment of all the time, I was either playing or thinking about games, often more than I should have been. I wasn't a great student. I got fine grades, but I certainly didn't want to do the work and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit, because this is something that everybody, struggles with who's an entrepreneur, is, how to take that leap and how to really even invest time and spend, even if you're not borrowing money, how to spend the time to kind of develop the passion. And obviously it was talking to you so much that you were talking to your wife, and thank God that she said, hey, listen, you're going to have to do this thing, man. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear what ifs for the rest. And, and now she's as much to do with that success as you are. So how does someone, now you did have some financial background, but that doesn't always guarantee financial success. So how did you do that? How does an entrepreneur who might be watching or listening take this passion-based dream that is burning in them and maybe stay in the job while they're cultivating it? And how do you do that financially?
So financially, I did both until the games could support it by itself. But as far as being able to actually do that, I just looked at what I did during, and I said, okay, well, there's this thing that I do that takes I spend 4 or 5 hours a week. I can't do this and have a family and have a regular job and be able to start publishing games. And so the family, the regular job, and the publishing games weren't going. So I took almost everything that wasn't those three things and just, kicked them out of my life. So that's where I got some time. I understand that people might not have an employment situation where they can do this, but I had a conversation with my boss, who was essentially my dad, made a very easy conversation. Well, easy, air quotes there, and said, this is what I'm going to be doing. I want to do this, and when you give me stuff, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get everything done, but sometimes I'll have to be here and not have things to do. And when those times come into place, I am going to do some of the work on this other project. Okay. I understand that not everybody has that sort of situation. Yeah. Just made sure that always constantly checking in with my wife. Is it too much? Is it too much? Is it too much? I can reel it back. Whatever you need.
Cool.
Those were the key factors.
And I don't know anything about investing in board games and how you develop a hobby board game, but tell us specifically, what did you have to do? Did you have to buy something or pay someone to print boards, or did you have a graphic design team and you had to design these shields and all these different boards?
Yeah, so the entire process looks like this. First, we license a game design from a game designer, usually a passionate amateur. Then we make sure it's up to the gameplay standard that we want. That might require some playing and some tweaking of the rules. Then we get artwork made, and we get it manufactured, and we get it shipped. We manufacture most of our stuff in China. Okay. Actually, basically, the manufacturer that we use, I don't think anybody on the planet makes as good of a quality, and the price is good too. And then we get it shipped from China, ocean freight, and get it through customs, and it arrives, and we try to sell it to people. That whole time in that period, we're letting people know about it. We're trying to build a relationship with an audience and so forth. That's the general process from start to finish. It's really more like what Simon and Schuster or Scholastic does for books. We do for games. Yeah.
And are your games available anywhere other than on your site?
Oh, we sell into a distribution channel, so they're available in hobby game stores. They're available on Amazon. We actually don't sell on our website.
Okay. So do these boards fold up in some cases?
Any variety of things can go in it. We can have for folding cardboard, so it expands out into this large board. We can have cards. We can have custom wooden shapes. We can put metal, custom minted metal coins in there. We can do plastic miniatures. Anything that we want to do, we can. We just have to make sure it makes sense price-wise.
And you must have package design too then involved in this.
Oh yes.
Okay, because that's I know that's exciting, and it's kind of cool. Like when you get the box. I mean, I can go in my playroom and there's all our kids' games there, and all the boxes, and it's kind of like looking at the box is like, that's the big thing when you see a game, especially board games, and in an era when when I first saw your bio, and I was thinking, wow, board games. Because my kids are playing mostly digital games on Xbox or computer
Sure.
or phone, but we still do have game night. We still bring games to my mother's, who's going to be 91, because they like,
Awesome.
my sister and that family like to see boards because everyone can engage in it. So it's cool to see that you're still keeping that alive too. And I'm assuming it's more than alive; it's probably thriving.
It's a thriving business on the, as a whole industry, but that doesn't mean it's large by a normal industry standard sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like the entire physical board game, hobby board game business is probably less money than like 3 of the top 5 movie releases for the year.
Okay.
And of course, the top 5 movie releases for the year, that's a small industry too, when you compare it to what Oracle or Microsoft are doing.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're a very relaxed, chill guy, and so you probably have a better marriage because of your demeanor and your attitude and But what kind of advice can you give to some guy out there who maybe is a little bit more intense and he's like doesn't have the same transition plan, can't really
Sure.
talk to his dad, and his wife doesn't suggest to him, because what our audience is dealing with a lot is the boss is not your dad. They're up your ass and they're trying to, like shoot you and fire you and get you to do more work. And the
Right.
wives are not supportive, or the husbands are not supportive of most of us entrepreneurs. They're like, can't you just stay in your real job and get a pension and just make it safe? Why do we have to speculate and do all this extra stuff? So what kind of suggestions could you give to someone in our audience who doesn't have a dad doing it,
Sure.
and their wife or husband is like, just forget about this stuff already?
I think there's 2 major options there. Number one is that a air quote safe job is not necessarily quite so safe anymore.
Okay.
If you're not if you look at your job and you don't see how your work requires you as a human to do it, and doesn't require and couldn't be replaced by a process inside of a piece of software, then you're probably better off. But I was talking to Misha, who works here, yesterday, about back in the day he worked for the bowling company, AMF, not Brunswick, the other one, and they had a guy whose job was literally to price spare parts. This was probably the 70s, and the spare parts pricing was literally take the cost, multiply it by 5, you get the price.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the guy's job. That is obviously something that gets put into an accounting program now. It's just like the price is 5 times the cost.
Yeah.
Done. So there are things like that, and machines are getting better at doing people's work. So there's the argument that unless you have a relationship with other people, that is the requirement for business, then maybe your job's not so safe.
Well, I just heard a story yesterday about like a whole department where there was like a head of a department where all the people were really tight with this person, but then new management came in and fired that person, and then there all went all those relationships. So they were all gone too because the one they had this relationship you're talking about with
Right.
was let go.
Right. That can happen too. Yeah. The other thing that I would say is to not jump in both feet. Right.
Okay.
There's the argument you have to really do something to be able to be successful at it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're not in harmony with those you need to be in harmony with, I don't see how you get past that. You say, hey, I know that we like watching Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad or whatever, but I want to do this. I want to do this for me, but I want to do this for our family, and we will be better off if I can succeed at it.
Yeah.
And you know what? If it takes cutting 2 hours out of watching TV at night and just doing it at that point in time, I don't see a situation where you can get a lot of fight back on that. Maybe there's like, well, but what about when we want to watch a movie? Okay, that's fine, but that makes sense. But I don't want to get stuck into a 5-season, 20 episodes a season, 40 minutes an episode.
Yeah.
Like 36 hours that I'm going to be watching something.
And that's pretty much a business cycle. If you could eliminate watching TV, you could pretty much have your own business. So I like what you had to say. Listen, it is true. For those of you watching and listening who aren't sure whether your job is protected or ready to be cut at any time, it could be cut at any time. So big leaps are essential. We all have to do it. We talk about that all on this show all the time. We're all about big leaps, both in business and in love. And certainly, if you have extra time, which we all do, listen, all of our couches get a lot of action. And so, yeah, that's a good point. You can't be, I always say to my wife, you can't be stupid if you're lazy, and you can't be lazy if you're stupid. You can't be both of those things. You can be stupid and not lazy and really work hard, and you can be really hard working and smart, or don't work hard and you're pretty smart. But if you're stupid and lazy, you're going to be in big trouble. So we always kid around our house. Stupid and lazy is a bad combination. So,
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that whole lot.
You can steal that from me. That's a good one. I always use it because I've seen people without the knowledge work hard and get there, and I've seen people who didn't like to work hard be really smart and figure it out. But you can't be both. So that's for us entrepreneurs out here, and especially married ones. Okay, so then what about the relationship side? Talk about the wife part, and what if your spouse is not supportive of this whole thing?
Sure. I'm a strange person in a lot of ways. For example, very early in the relationship with my wife, I said, "Look, I don't think Valentine's Day is a big deal. Everyone wants to make it a big deal.
Okay.
So here's what I propose. I propose to you. I don't know if we were married at the time. It wasn't like, hey, let's get married proposed, right? But I was like, here is my suggestion. You can choose two options. I will be a jerk to you 364 days of the year and wonderful one day. Or I can be great all the time, and you know what? I'm not going to be like extra great on Valentine's Day."
Wow.
And when I put it that way, she's like, "Yeah, that's reasonable." I mean, we see people who are like in these horrible relationships, and they're like, "Oh, Valentine's Day, yay! You're going to be nice."
Yeah, the anniversary is another one of those days.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so
The birthday.
all those kind of days, they're just additional days.
Good man.
My wife and I, for like the past 6 or 7 years, have gotten the same anniversary present for each other every year, and it is a commitment to be married to each other for another year.
Good idea. That's a good one.
And it's, I don't know, communication is what it's about. I personally, I know myself, and I know that doing Valentine's Day, doing extra birthday stuff, doing these sort of things are fine. They're good, but I have a hard time just coming up with this wonderful thing. And so getting relationship advice from me is potentially a bad idea, because a lot of people,
I love the two golden nuggets you gave us because they're solid gold. One is make the pitch. Would you like me to be, special all the time and just kind of like this level of special, and there's no up and down, or would you rather have me, be extra special on a birthday, anniversary, or Valentine's Day? I love it. I think it's legendary. I think it's a marriage boss moment. So that one we're going to take. That's good. And then the part about you being like a little bit different and making that commitment. I think it's for the ladies out there, or all the people who really adore love and that kind of romantic stuff. That's completely adorable. And for the guys out there, I think it's awesome to take that extra step and get a commitment renewed. It's like, hey, listen, it sounds like a renewal of a vow type thing, and why not do that every year? That's as good an anniversary gift as I've ever heard. So congratulations to you for coming up with a terrific answer, and that's a golden nugget. That's a marriage lost moment right there, Michael.
well, good.
Good job,
I had to come up with something, because
Hey, you know
third
what?
anniversary, I got her a necklace. She doesn't wear the thing.
Yep.
I was like, so what are we gonna do?
I'm not doing that
Okay,
anymore. Yeah, good idea. Good for you. And you know what? I think that we could all trust a guy who makes games for a living with our relationships. Because let's face it, we all want to have fun. I was excited today when I, saw your info, and I was like, you know what, this is going to be fun because I got a guy here who has got to be a fun guy, and that's what everybody's looking for. Listen, ladies are looking for fun, lighthearted, sense of humor, a little bit different. When you said you're like not the typical, there's a lot of us out here now that are doing stuff like that, not adhering to all these traditional norms and the stories that we grew up with. And you know what? Those relationships are much more successful. So congratulations to you. Yeah, you're more than just a game designer. You're a marriage boss.
Well, I don't design games.
Okay.
That's a fool's man work.
All right.
But that's a whole nother story.
So we call you, what do we call you? A game developer? A publisher?
Publisher.
All right.
Yeah. At this point in time, I pretty much have hired into a situation where the company can run on its own without me.
Good.
That doesn't mean it runs better with me. It runs better with me though.
Good.
So, and I enjoy it, so I do that.
Cool. That's awesome, man. Well, that's great advice. You did a good job, man. Whether you planned that or you just pulled that out of a hat, man. You're a magician in addition. Good stuff, man. And how can people get in touch with your company and or find all of the goodness that is Tasty Minstrel?
Sure. You can go to Play TMG, as in, so T as in Tom, or T as in Tasty, M as in Minstrel, as in the guy who plays an instrument, G as in games. So playtmg.com is our website. It is currently almost finished with a big update visually. So if people go there before that happens, then you might say, "Oh, what's this?" But if you go after, then it should be good.
All right.
And then our most accessible game that anybody would have success with is Martian Dice. It's a $15 dice game. You can get that on Amazon. It's a good introduction to a more family accessible thing.
Cool. That sounds good. I'm going to check it out myself. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. It was fun to meet you and fun to get to know your story, and I like the golden nuggets. So thank you for sharing that with us. And yes, you are a marriage boss.
Okay, well, thank you, Rick. I appreciate it.
All
Have
right,
a good
Michael.
one.
Nice to talk to you, buddy. Take care.
Yep, you too.